Hi everyone, it's Andy and Joel on the Stay Hungry podcast, and ahead of the game episode today, let's do this. Sometimes I'm tempted to just let that song keep playing.
How long does it last for?
Oh, it loops forever.
Excellent. Right, what are we talking about today?
Impostor Syndrome.
Oh, that sounds fancy. Is that like when you fall in love with your kidnapper?
No, that's Stockholm Syndrome. Have you been practicing that one before?
No, literally, that was just off the top of my head.
That's good.
Maybe I am naturally funny after all.
Yeah, who knew?
Better late than never.
You're going to ask me to explain Impostor Syndrome now, aren't you?
Yeah, so why do people need to listen to this podcast? Why do business people need to listen to this podcast?
So, having spoken to hundreds of business owners in our careers and being part of a mentorship group too, where we work with some very, very, very successful businesses, I'm yet to meet a business owner that hasn't suffered from imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And I think it's really important for business leaders, managers, sole traders to listen to this podcast, almost to just understand that you're not alone and that everybody goes through this, and that...
What is it?
Well, if you'd let me finish. So imposter syndrome is essentially that kind of feeling that you're not worthy, like you're almost like being at a dinner and being the person that feels like they don't fit in, that you're the imposter you're the elephant in the room. I think that's a good way to describe it. So to give you an analogy of this actually happening to me in front of you.
Oh, go on.
We used to go to a lunch network club.
Right, I know what you're going to say.
I was a young business owner at the time, before Codebreak existed.
I know what you're going to say, and this was years ago, and I know exactly what incident
what story you're going to say. So there's a gentleman in the room who literally said to my face, "Oh, I don't deal with little businesses like yours," and followed it up with, "What school did you go to?" And
this is when I turned around to you afterwards and says, "Don't worry about it, he's ginger."
Yeah, you did say that.
No, you probably can't say that anymore.
Oh, there's a lot of ginger people I like in the world.
Yeah, sorry to all our gingerous listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable that you've just said that when I was making a heartfelt point.
Actually, that was the incident I was thinking about. About that same lunch club, there was another incident, sort of similar, and I haven't spoken to that lady in question properly since that time, where she was quite rude to you, and a bit demeaning, and won't now. But there's
what was that? I must have parked that one.
Oh right. Well,
what does she do?
What we do?
Does her name begin with A?
No. Who's that? Right. We need to talk afterwards.
Oh, I want to know the story of when you felt bad for me. This is lovely.
Well, it's when I end up blocking her from everything.
Oh, what did someone say about me?
Yeah, the same lunch club, the Prince Rupert. Right, we'll talk about it afterwards. We need to move on now, I think. But
was I not there for that one though? But you saw her say something.
Oh yeah, maybe
about
that
me.
was it. Maybe you weren't there, and I thought, right, fuck you. You're now out of my life, and she has been.
I had put that out of my mind,
and we're better for it. But I know the guy you're in question. He's relatively successful, but he's now finally started creeping up to us quite a lot, and it's like, no. We're like elephants.
We remember.
Yeah, I know we should be better people and not bear a grudge, but I don't like when people upset my friends.
Yeah.
And
so, as an analogy goes, I've actually decided it wasn't that great, because that's not necessarily imposter syndrome. That's other people making you feel like you don't deserve to be there. Where imposter syndrome, I guess, is you making yourself feel like you don't deserve to be there.
So I would have said it was the first. I said people who put chinks in your armour, and you've spent 20 years learning your craft, you're confident that you can help people, but you let the wrong people into your circle, they chip away at you, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, and you feel, oh, actually maybe I can't help people as much as I thought. Oh, maybe I do need to work on something. That's how I was looking at it. Could be both, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess both. And I mean, we talk about your kind of the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But I guess a really important part of that, because, not everybody wants to spend time with maybe super successful people or really, really driven people. But certainly it's healthy to spend time with people that prop you up rather than push you down.
Yeah. I mean, when you got people like Jordan Belfort, who you think will be like the toughest guy in the world mentally, and even he will admit that sometimes on social media people will break through his armour and get to him and he'll bite back. Now I'm not saying he goes home crying about it, but you think that someone like that could be affected by what a troll says on social media. You think, well, that wouldn't happen in a million years, but he's quite open about it, and he said that on a Rob Moore podcast I listened to a couple of weeks ago, and you said
Jeff Goldblum
Right,
on the
okay. What did
Adam
he say?
Buxton podcast. So he was talking about he restricts his screen time, which for a movie star is quite interesting. But he generally avoids social media. But when he needs to promote his band, when he's going around the world, he plays kind of like jazz clubs and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah. He's got a very, very jazz voice, hasn't he? So,
Cool. I didn't know that. Was he piano then?
Yeah, he's a pianist and singer. Yeah.
Oh, gee, he's got like big hands. He'd be good at the piano, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and he just oozes cool, doesn't he? So you can imagine he's a bit of an alley cat. It's that sort of.
I see a lot of Jeff Goldblum in us, Joel.
Yeah. He certainly seems a lot more relaxed than us.
Are we alley cats? Something beginning with the C.
Yeah. Alley something, yeah. Right, where was I? So, yeah, he was talking about that he knows who he is and he knows what his values are and he knows what his musical aspirations are and his film aspirations and his acting aspirations are. And he tries to nurture his children that way too. So he shows them like old school films like Chaplin and that kind of thing, and Buster Keaton, and he wants them to learn about the craft before they see all the special effects and stuff, because he wants them to understand the culture of it. But he said because he's also naturally very anxious, which makes him creative, it doesn't take much to kind of chink his armour.
So what will chink his armour? A troll, you mean?
Yeah, it could be a troll, could be a review, could be a heckler in the crowd, could be someone he bumps into in his hotel, because he said very often he'll do practice sessions on the piano in the foyer. I mean, you must stay in nice hotels, but the foyer piano, because obviously you can't carry a piano around with you everywhere. And what he was essentially saying is he wasn't sure he deserved to be there, like what he'd done to deserve to be there, because there's jazz pianists who are absolutely amazing and have done that since they were 12 years old, where he's predominantly an actor with a love of jazz. But then he said there's people he'd spoken to, so people like Wes Anderson and Ridley Scott, who had literally said to him, I've directed actors all over the world, and you're a pleasure to direct. And he's acted across the stage and screen from some serious actors, hasn't he?
Oh, that's interesting. Do you remember a character called Dennis Pennis?
Yeah, by he's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Paul Kay. Paul Kay, was it? Who basically used to go, for anyone who doesn't know,
the first troll. Is that where you're going with
he'd
this?
go and accost celebrities at their film premieres and ask them stupid questions. Now they'd think, who's this idiot? Is he just trying to be funny? Didn't realise it was all basically a prank, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he said the one time he felt really bad was when he accosted Steve Martin. He goes, Steve, why aren't you funny anymore? And Steve Martin, who's obviously one of the world's funniest guys, just the reaction on his face, you could tell that just
brutal.
Cut deep.
He got Demi Moore as well, didn't he? He
said, I don't know. What
said
did he
to
say
Demi
her?
Moore, will you ever take a role where you keep your clothes on?
Oh, right, okay.
And I mean, nowadays that would be horrific.
Well, Dennis Pennis, yeah, certainly.
But she took it quite well. But yeah, I've seen the one you're referring to too, and the colour drains from his face.
Yeah, and you think someone who is at the top of their game can, whether it's timing or you've had a bad day or whatever, suddenly someone who you probably don't even know can get through to you so that you question an ability that 99% of the world wouldn't question.
So I'll put this out there. Obviously, I know you know me. Successful people, and I'm not saying I'm successful. I'm on a journey to success. Make that clear. But successful people that I aspire to are far more sensitive than the world realises.
I listen to podcasts, being part of various communities on Instagram. I'm at the moment struggling to think of someone I follow, famous in their field. So you might not know them, but they might be they might be an Olympian. So I'm listening to a podcast at the moment. Rich Roll's interviewing Apollo Ono, who is an gold medal speed skater. So most people never have heard of him. But anyway, I'm a big fan of his. And he's talking about how so many Olympians have mental health issues, and he talks about suicide and stuff. And I'm really struggling to think of celebrities or sports people I follow who haven't got chinks in their armour, who haven't had moments of self-doubt and worry. You think, my God, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is probably about the only one I can't think of. You might tell me different, who I follow, and I'm a big fan of Arnie, love his book. And if you haven't read his autobiography, Total Recall, I advise you to.
Incredible.
If you want to learn about, whether you like Arnie or not, if you want to learn about work ethic and business nous, fantastic book to read. And so he, to my recollection, I haven't seen many chinks in his armour, but generally speaking, everyone else I follow, they will every now and then say about a struggle they've had, and you think, wait, hang on, you have had this kind of struggle? No way. And it's just like, wow, so everyone's human.
I'll put this out there then.
Don't tell me Arnold's struggling, I'm not sure.
No, I would say usually mental strength in Western society is born out of mental anguish. So the
you mean
people
iron sharpens iron? Is that it? Is that the kind of phrase?
I don't know.
Do you mean what when you've had a tough upbringing, you learn?
So I would imagine most people that know me would describe me as mentally resilient.
Right. Okay. Sorry if I made a slurp. And I'm just drinking a fizzy drink here.
But
love Pepsi Max.
My
drinks are available.
Always on a heartfelt point. But I would say most people's mental resilience and mental strength and the walls and the barriers they put up and the tactics they use to succeed or to mow the lawn or walk up the street are all born out of their life experiences. And actually some of these people like a Robin Williams or a Keith Flint or something. Robin Williams is incredibly funny because he's probably was incredibly funny, because he was probably quite sad inside. So
most comedians
he found his joy in making others laugh. Or like Keith Flint found his joy in entertaining other people, and when you took away his option to entertain people, he didn't have that fulfillment anymore. So his mental strength, there's not many people who could go on stage and dance and sing in front of hundreds of thousands of people in a very wild way and have the confidence to do that. But then behind closed doors, he must have been a very different person. So the mental strength to do that was probably born out of the anguish on the other side. And I'd say 99% of people, when you look at them, how you perceive them is probably not the full picture. And that's where I think imposter syndrome is probably something, I imagine Barack Obama went through imposter syndrome.
I talk to my daughters a lot about social media presentation and stuff, about how they go on about various celebrities in their world who I've never heard of, some influencer with 3 million YouTube followers and 5 Lamborghinis, and they say, oh yeah, but they're like this, they're like that. I says, don't believe, maybe they are uber cool and uber confident, but I said, I bet you, one, they've probably worked hard to become an influencer. It isn't just a case of you take a few pretty pictures and suddenly you're a multimillionaire. They probably worked very hard at what they do, and I said there'll be some struggles there, that we're not exposed to. You see this wonderful candy-coated world on Instagram, especially, and I've got to say this, especially amongst younger influencers, I don't think they seem to show their vulnerabilities. Not that they have to, of course, as much as perhaps older people who seem to be a bit more... Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more open now, whereas before it was no way, I'll bleed on the inside. I'm not going to have... And got to be honest, to a certain extent, even when we've had business challenges or personal challenges, I won't let my kids see it.
Yeah.
I don't think my kids have ever seen me cry. Even when my dad died, I don't think. I just, and that's just me, I don't want them to see that. And I'll open my soul in podcasts to a certain extent if I think they can help people like yourself. But generally speaking, with our guys, the people in our circle, our clients and our staff, I want them to have that confidence in you.
So, I'll ask you a really personal question now.
Oh, go on. I'm 6'2".
Do you think your children see a problem with crying because of that?
No, because Emma cries all the time. No. Don't think so. Do you know, I'm just thinking if I ever saw my dad cry.
Because it's okay to cry. And I know it's okay to cry. So
I'd never cry in front of this lot, in front of the staff.
no, well, I've had some stuff, some tear-worthy stuff go on, and I haven't cried in front of this lot. But
I would say I don't think they've even thought about it.
well, that's nice. That's nice. But there's certainly people out there who've had upbringings where crying is seen as a weakness.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are fathers out there who are telling their children, "Do not cry and bleed on the inside." Like what I've just said, it's like, no. I mean, they know I can be emotional, but I also want them to see me as a person of strength. So when they need help and support, they'll go to me rather than, "Oh, Dad's got enough on his plate. Actually, I don't really want to worry him." I've always said we've always got time for a laugh and a cuddle in this house. So I said, no matter what I'm doing, whether I've got the laptop out, whatever, there's always time for a cuddle.
Because obviously I haven't got children. I certainly can't.
That's why you have money.
Can't comment on that side of things. But I've made an active decision in the last 12 months that when I'm dealing with clients, I'm not to cry about my personal problems, but I'm not afraid to show my vulnerabilities. So if I'm having a chat with someone and they say, "Oh, what's your reasoning for that?" So I don't know enough about that, or I need to go to the gym a bit more before I could pull that off, or whatever it might be. And I've actually found it disarms people. They become closer to you and more trusting of you because you're more human. But that's not to say I'd ever say anything that would mean they would lack confidence in me as a marketer. So I wouldn't turn around and say to them, "Oh, I know nothing about pay-per-click. I just pay other people to do that," because that's ridiculous. But if they said to me, an exact example, some guys asked me, "How come you didn't come to our Super Bowl party last year?" And I bailed on it the night before. And the reality was I had some business anxiety going on. And in my head, it was more important to get a good night's sleep that night than it was to go to an all-night Super Bowl party. So I just said, I was really anxious the night before and I needed the night's sleep. And all three of them went, "Oh, all right, fair enough."
I think I just told them I couldn't be asked. No, I totally agree with you on that front. It's, we're all human. I do think some people, in my opinion, some people go too far, and some people, even in our industry, express so much vulnerability. You actually, God, would you look after me if I were your clients? It sounds like you go to pieces whenever.
Yeah.
And that sounds a bit harsh, but if you're paying money to someone, you want to make sure that person can deliver on what they promise and that money's going to be well looked after. And if you think that, oh my goodness, if any pressure arises in this job and challenge, you'll fold rather than deal with it, that's different.
I completely agree. There's a trend for people to wear their vulnerabilities like a wave it like a flag.
Yes.
And it garners engagement because everybody else who's also got that vulnerability jumps on the bandwagon. Much like certain people in certain niches will do that with their strengths as well, and then everybody with that same strength is like, "Oh yeah, mate, I can do that too." And actually, it's about that kind of humanizing relationship element of when you're interacting with people. Of if we're talking to a member of staff in our team about what they need to do to improve, I can talk to them about what I did to improve to get better at that. And they might turn around and say, "Oh, you weren't always able to do it like this." No, it took me years and years of practice. I was useless at it to start with, and it lowers the guard. Everybody goes, "Oh, right." Or when we're talking to a client, we can say things like, "We've been doing this for 10 years, so the mistakes that we made at the start won't happen on your account. You won't have to go through that journey because we've done it before." And suddenly it takes the pressure off them. They're like, "Oh, right, so you've taken the hits for me already so that I don't have to..." Yes. And
I think it says on our website somewhere that, we've learned some things the hard way and some things the easy way, and we'll make sure that you don't have to go through that pain.
Yeah.
We've gone through it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think, right, this will sound cynical now, do you think there are even some people on social media who not jump on the vulnerability, but should we say exaggerate it, and for the purpose of engagement, stroke clickbaiting, basically?
Yeah, and it really, really, really upsets me.
But you can't say anything because there is the chance they could be genuine. But I think there's a few people out there now.
So that's the caveat is you've no idea what's going on behind closed doors. So there'll be people out there who are massively downplaying their vulnerabilities, and just to even hint at them is a huge step in the right direction for them.
Yeah.
And they're the people that everybody should be really wary of, because they're the ones that need the help and need the support. There are people out there who might have had a little stumble and they blow it up into a massive, they make a mountain out of a molehill type thing. But speaking from my own experience, the problem is when you're in a mindset of vulnerability, some molehills are mountains to you.
Yeah.
And so you could, as the external observer, unless you really, really know that person, you can never know. I mean, I don't want to talk about the example that we both have of somebody who certainly uses their vulnerability as an advert. But and even if I hint at it, chances are they'll know what I'm talking about. But we've seen some people use it to sell almost. And that makes me feel a bit uneasy. I've started to share my vulnerabilities in the hope that, one, it helps me build relationships because people can relate to me more, but two, if it ever helps anybody else, that makes me feel good, if I'm honest. If I can help somebody else going through something because I've already been through it, in my mind, as a human, that's the right thing to do. Not necessarily business, but as a human, that's the right thing to do. I worry. And I think people have the same concerns about, like people that don't like comic relief and don't like children in need because they...
Who wouldn't like that?
Well, they see it as like celebrities who are on a pedestal, then like travel to impoverished places and...
In their private jet.
Yeah. I don't see it like that, but I can understand why people can get like that. And you have to be careful that you're not... What's it called when you do that? Virtue signalling.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, virtue signalling. You don't like Ricky Gervais for being a virtue signaller.
What do I like him for?
I don't know, you said you're always banging about animals.
No, what I don't like is when someone like him will do a post like, anyone who kills animals is a twat. Well, okay, no shit. Sorry, anyone who kills animals for fun is a twat. In fact, he'll probably use a word worse than twat. Well, so what? That's not even... That's not divisive or anything. You're literally just such a white blanket statement. It's like, well, no shit. And that sort of winds me up a bit when people make a statement. Well, what's an engaging post about that? That's not informing anyone.
Yes.
That's not educating anyone. Why don't you list right? Okay, well, what is it that some people are doing? Inform me, rather than just say, there are marketers who do it. Anyone who doesn't outsource their marketing is a twat. I mean, literally, we know agencies that will say that, which I suppose grates with us because it's just not our cup of tea at all. But it's like, if you're going to come out and use a quote, at least have it mean something. And we always say to our guys who are doing a post, it needs to educate, inspire, or entertain. And of course, you won't get it right. I mean, all the time, 99% there, hopefully, rather than 100%. But if one of our guys came up with like, what did we say the other day on the podcast about that firm that does quotes about the sun's energy? It's like, the sun has the power to heal all. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
It does, though.
Hey, it's Georgia at Codebreak. Thanks for listening to the Stay Hungry podcast. If you're hungry for more, don't forget to check out all the free marketing content on codebreak.co.uk.
That's a good ad. I like that one, Georgia.
Yeah, that's the best one, really.
So, talk to me about when you've experienced imposter syndrome. Because I'm experiencing it every bloody day at the moment.
Okay, the mentorship group we're a part of.
Yeah.
First time we attended that, walked into a room, and for whatever reason, probably because of the marketing we'd been exposed to that ultimately facilitated our decision to join this group or to apply to join this group. I think, well, the other people in this group, they've gone through an application process as well, so they're going to be successful. But there was no massive indication that, right, everyone in this room is a millionaire, anything like that. But, new guys in the room, is like, oh God, there's some really successful looking people here. That guy's got a nice shiny 3-piece suit on. Oh, he must be, he's turned up in a Ranger. Oh, he must be more successful than me. And now I've realised that, yeah, of course, there are people who are more successful than us in that group, but there are also people who aren't. And the group's job is to make everyone as successful as they can be according to what their own goals are. But and to be honest, in the mentorship group meeting yesterday, I felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome, because we got a couple of challenges, but nice challenges. We're growing, and now we've got to recruit, which comes with its own obstacles and stuff. But it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
So I go through it now and then, but I tend to go through it in pockets. I'll have like a period of a couple of days, and then I won't think about it. But I know some people, almost like every day, every week, someone, especially if they're quite vocal or quite prominent on social media, someone will pop up and have a dig at them, and that bothers them. Their armour can't cope with that.
Yeah, and I've seen examples as well of people who I know must be going through imposter syndrome because of how aggressive they are on social media.
Oh, really?
There's a few. There's a guy who does a regular rant on LinkedIn that we both know.
Yeah.
I often think, what's your motivation?
What's the Shakespeare? Methinks he doth protest too much.
Yeah, exactly that.
Shakespeare in a podcast.
Well,
so deep, Joel.
Yeah, we were talking about Stoicism yesterday, so we're.
I've got to download the app. What is it?
The Daily Stoic.
The Daily Stoic. So we're going to like quotes from like Roman emperors. Every
a lot
day
of Marcus Aurelius on there. Yeah. Really good. Really
from
good.
Gladiator.
Well, he is in Gladiator. Yeah.
He's not the whacking Phoenix character, is he?
No,
he shagged his sister.
It's his dad. That's Marcus Aurelius.
Richard.
Yeah.
Who played Dumbledore.
So the point is,
Richard Harris.
Gladiator is showing the part where the Roman Empire went from what was kind of a democracy with various heads of state, and they all got voted in, to the first Caesars, and that's the political bit about Gladiator that you don't really see because you're too busy watching Russell Crowe wrestle a tiger, and that's something, the world's going through that at the moment, a massive shift towards individuals that want to have a lot of power, and so that's where I stumbled across Stoicism, having had a chat with my father-in-law, and then he was like, well, there's people for 3,000 years who've been saying stuff that will guide you and help you because they've already learnt these lessons, and they're willing to show you their vulnerabilities. And I was like, well, and that's really helped with my imposter syndrome, because...
So does it push a notification every morning with some...
Well, I don't have notifications on my phone, but if I hop on it, there's always going to be 3 quotes, and I'd say 2 of the 3 hit home every time. It's just really good, really good.
So what would our advice be to people who are struggling with imposter syndrome? How can they add layers to their armour? Or let's face it, some of it is choice. If you say, I know, if you came to me, John, and said, I'm feeling really sad today because lots of people are having a go at me at LinkedIn, my first advice before I became really sympathetic would be, well, fucking turn LinkedIn off then.
So I know what we did for the first 12 months of Codebreak, which helped me cope with it.
Oh, go on.
Was we...
Does it drink a lot?
Well, that too. We told ourselves we were the disruptors in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So it didn't matter that we were imposters, because...
Were we imposters?
To start with, I'd say, yeah, to an extent. Because we were coming at it from an entirely different angle. So everyone was like, well, who the hell do these guys think they are? What are they doing? But that empowered me. I was like, yeah, we're disrupting the marketplace. We're doing it differently. Do it. If you want to come on this ride, strap in, sort of thing. Where, because that worked, we've now reached a level where I'm like, okay, well, it's pretty bloody serious now. We have people submitting CVs to us when we are not even advertising for jobs. We have people saying, I'd love to work with you one day, from America. And my imposter syndrome's come back, but in a different way. Now it's like...
Some of the guests you've interviewed from America. I mean, the lady you interviewed last week who's bloody been on Gary V's show.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, holy shit. I'm almost known. Like, I'm almost known for what I do, which isn't something I was ever prepared for. And then a whole fresh load of imposter syndrome around that. And, well...
Do you have it every day then?
Not.
What would happen? What would have to happen right, or what do you think could happen right now that would trigger it? Are there certain people who say value, whose opinion you value, or could it just be some troll you'd never heard of say something, or could it be losing a client and they give some unsolicited feedback about why they're leaving? Or
I don't think I have it. I don't have it massively anymore. I know it's there, but we had an example a couple of weeks ago where somebody wanted to speak to me in a fresh inquiry, and I wasn't free for 2 days because my diary was fully booked. But we gave him access to my diary, and we did speak. What I found peculiar there, for me, what was really hard for me was I started to question, are our processes right? Are we looking after people properly? Am I...
Because he wasn't happy about it.
Because he gave unsolicited feedback about the fact that I wasn't available. And for me, that's all very odd. So I was sort of like, well, maybe I should question this. And I had quite a deep conversation with you about it. And then I started to question myself. And basically we went round in a massive circle and got back to the fact, stop questioning yourself. No one else has ever... we've had similar with people that wanted to pay in a different way to how everyone else pays. We've had a client leave when we were doing really, really well for them.
So if in 6 months' time, if someone we never heard of called the office, wants to speak to you about marketing, and they were like, right, okay, well, obviously to avoid playing telephone tennis, your time's important. I'll send you a link to Joel's private diary, you book an appointment. And he was like, oh, bloody hell, I can't get hold of him for 3 days. Would you deal with that differently now? Because you've been there and done that. That problem's been dealt with, so that is never going to bother me again now. I know we do what we do to make the company more productive.
Yeah, exactly that. So I guess Joel of 3 years ago couldn't have handled that because of who the fuck does this guy think he is? Why? Private diary, you're taking the piss. I just want to speak to someone about my new marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. Where now it's like, actually, I need to put my clients first. I need to make sure I'm servicing my clients to the best of my ability and making sure our agency is. And if you can't wait a couple of days to speak to me, we're not going to be the right agency for you. Mm-hmm. And I understand there are agencies out there that will bend over backwards for a new sale.
They'll value prospects ahead of clients.
Yeah, well, they might value prospects ahead of clients, but they could be very heavily loaded on the sales side of things. But that comes with consequences too, because you might end up speaking to a salesperson who promises you things that their team can't deliver. Where at least with us, when you get to speak to me, I'll build the package around your goals and your requirements and what you want to achieve, and I will know exactly what our team can do. And that's how I deal with that now. Is, well, you chose to ring. Most of our marketing points you towards a discovery call anyway. If you didn't go down the discovery call route, then you have to wait a few days. 1, because I'm looking after our clients, and 2, because I need to check out who you are before we speak anyway. Otherwise, the first half an hour of our call is going to be a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, once you've explained it, because I know you had a conversation with that guy, I was like, oh, right, I understand that. Because a lot of people, their concern with an agency is that they won't get looked after. Maybe it's like changing any supplier. They worry that once they've signed on the dotted line, they'll be like, right, they'll be after the next thing now. And so I sort of understand that a while, but once you've explained to them, well, the reason you can't get hold of me for 2 days or whatever is because, I am busy helping clients. Imagine if you were a client and I was helping you, but I dropped everything every time the phone rang. What would you rather I did? Oh, yeah, well, I understand that now.
Yeah.
Okay. So everything's got to have that.
Hi, Emily at Codebreak. I just wanted to check if you've booked your discovery call with Andy or Joel yet. It's a free 20-minute chat to talk about your goals and how we can help you achieve them. Visit codebreak.co.uk to book.
I was premature on that button push then.
That's all right. I just carry on talking. I much prefer, I don't know what it is, even though we're being filmed, I just find it more relaxing doing a podcast using the mics rather than, say, doing a Facebook Live, which I suppose comes with a bit more added pressure.
And you have to keep looking at the camera.
Yeah, this is weird. So, I hope everyone's enjoying these podcasts. How many of these ahead of the games have you done now?
Is that Impostor Syndrome?
Oh, could be, yeah. No, you are enjoying it. If not, switch off. Unsubscribe, unfollow, disconnect.
I think this is like it's either episode 106 or episode 108. So
it's weird. If you told me a few years ago that we'd be doing a podcast series about, not mental health per se, but about mindset and stuff, like, what the fuck are you on about, Joel? Let's get some sales in.
But your personal journey on that side of things has been massive in quite a short space of time in terms of looking at mindset, looking at what you do in your morning routine, your evening routine, your diet.
Yeah. I suppose mindset and mental health they're interlinked. But I've done a lot of mindset work. I've never really. Obviously, I'm much more informed, I think, and educated about mental health challenges now. But for me, mental health issues were sort of mindset issues, imposter syndrome issues, absolutely. And I will always learn. And if I think, right, well, okay, well, I'm not happy about this, what can I do to address it? And part of it is my routine. Part of it is who we hang around with, and we know that, whether it's, socially, our family, even online. I've been much stricter on my technology. So obviously social media, massive part of our business, but I won't expose myself to social media 24/7. I mean, I find it really strange, the people who, it's strange, it's not for me, that's a better way of saying it, to go to bed and have your phone next to you, to check your phone the first time as soon as you wake up. So I went on a bike ride this morning, up at 5:30 or whatever, got these really cool lights for the bike, so I was driving safely, and came back, whenever it was, 7:30. My eldest daughter, still in bed, which is fair enough, she didn't have to get up at that time for school, lying in bed, in her onesie, on her phone. I said, Mads, it's not the end of the world, but this isn't the best way to start a day. I'm not saying you have to get up and start doing 50 burpees, but you're on your phone too much. And
you're dressed as a dinosaur.
Unicorn, I think, yeah. And onesies, I'll tell you something. When we're interviewing at the moment, if it turns out that someone's idea of a great weekend is binging Netflix in their onesie, I don't care how good at marketing they are, they ain't getting the job.
If they work bloody hard for the 5 days before it, I would question that.
Onesies are just like the uniform of evil.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas. A Spock
onesie. I was just going to say a Star Trek onesie.
I've never seen you wear that cap, Andy, ever.
Yeah, how much did I get for that on eBay?
Probably a lot.
50p,
cost
I
me
think.
a fortune.
And tech, I think, the 5 a.m. Club, the book I'm reading, almost finished at the moment, talks a lot about technology and distraction. I've even invested in a new watch, which is more fitness app based, but it ain't going to go off every time I get an email or someone trying to call or notification, and any of that kind of stuff. Notifications, I think, can be, if you don't have that in check, in terms of your mindset and your focus, they're massively important. And remember that dinner party circle? How middle class?
Yeah.
We used to be a
Was this
part
after
of,
we went for brunch?
in our favourite brunch spot, after the clean had been to do your house. And there was one person in our dinner party circle who literally couldn't even eat dinner without the phone being next to her. And it's like, well, one, it's like, and first I thought, God, she's up her own arse. She thinks she's that important. Well, no, it wasn't. In fact, she literally was
too anxious,
addicted to those dings.
Too anxious.
What am I going to miss? Oh, what is it?
We were chatting to somebody who's very successful yesterday, talking about the dopamine hit, weren't they? The dopamine hit of reacting to notifications all the time, and the fact that it becomes, you can't cope without it, and so they'd literally set their phone that it only does the full ream of notifications between 9 and 3, I think he said, and then after that he'll only get text messages and calls. And I thought that was a really. And then we spoke to another very successful business owner yesterday who blocked 3 hours a day in his diary, where he turns email off, turns his phone off, and just purely works on whatever his big goal is.
So you'll love the 5 a.m. Club. It talks about the 90-minute chunks. So put your phone in a bag, lock it in another room, whatever it might be. Because I think, just in terms of your focus, obviously every time you get that ding, it takes 23 minutes to get back to your task or whatever the stat is. That alone can be so unproductive. If you imagine now, I take your phone off you for 15 minutes and tell you just to get on with something or watch telly or whatever. How many times do you think about that phone in 15 minutes? It's going to be a lot. It's really scary when you think about how many times you check your phone. Even when Emma and I are watching telly, who's that bloody actor? What have we seen him in? Right, I'm onto my IMDb app. And then I start, what's the trivia about this film? And then before you know, it's like, oh my God. And
Michael Caine, Treasure Island, Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Who are we watching? Do the Man in the High Castle. Oh, right. So there's a character who's coming to season 4, Man in the High Castle. I was like, oh my God, I know. He's a black guy. He's got an American accent, but I know he's a British actor. For the life of me, couldn't think of it. Right, I've got to check my phone. I said, I'm not going to check my phone, but it got to that point. I have to check it. And it was David Harewood who.
He used to be in Hobby City, didn't he? Is it?
Oh, don't watch that. He was the CIA director in the first 2 seasons of Homeland.
What was.
And I think he was in Supergirl as well. And it's like, Emma's like, what do we do in the old days? Like when we wanted to find stuff out like this. And it's like, well, just ask your mates the next day.
Look on the back of a VHS box.
You know, dig out the TV Times or something. It's strange. But yeah, phones, I think, so important.
Do you think there was a lot of minor actors back in the day and not many very famous ones? Where now, they're all pretty famous. Because you just go and find out who they are, and then I liked him. I watched that film, and I watched that film, or she was good.
Well, so what was the film they were talking about at the group yesterday about how most social media apps work? That you look for one thing, and their goal is to keep you hooked. And Joel, did you see that this actor's also been this? And here's a little clip, and before you know it, it's like, oh shit, it's midnight, and I haven't done anything.
Yeah. And what did someone say? I'm watching Bulgarian dance competitions or something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, from a business owner point of view, it's brilliant. You know, if we're designing a website for a client, we know first goal, obviously, get as many of the right people to the website as possible, and then convert them. And part of that is making sure the website is sticky, that they stay on the website. They don't just come and just bounce straight off. And that's what we're trying to do: keep people hooked, keep people engaged.
Oh yeah, we'll install heat maps on websites so we know where people put their cursor the most and things like that. And we're part of the problem, Andy.
Okay, it's all right. So I bought this new watch, so Emma's now obviously got to buy a new watch. So she was on a website looking at this certain type of watch, right? And then she goes onto a sports product website that sells cycling gear, running gear, everything. The header image on their homepage was of a sports fitness watch. Now, that could have been coincidence. I said to Emma, so well, it's got to be something like cookies, and they know you've been looking at a sports watch on this website. You've come to this other website.
Company.
Oh, massive company.
Yeah.
Not Amazon, but a big seller of fitness gear.
Not what I mean is that not like some niche brand, because obviously you go down the cycling route, you could look at there's some, you know, like Fat Man at the Back or whatever.
Very Fat Lad at the Back. Yeah.
It's like very like niche, but are we talking kind of like?
Well, I use Wiggle.
Okay, so so the biggest in the industry, essentially.
Are they?
Well, got to be one of them.
They're pretty big. And yeah, the header picture on the website was of these watches. And you know, for me as a business, I'd be like, brilliant, because that is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
They know that's what I'm looking for. Saves me fanning about.
I don't need any of this retracking. Like, you just buy stuff and then talk to me about it so much. So I want it, like those bloody bone conducting headphones that you bang on about.
I worry when I'm cycling or running and I go past people, not that I overtake many people, believe me, and they've all got headphones in. I'm like, you're on a road with blind bends. You couldn't hear me coming up behind you, and I like run pretty heavily, and you know, my bike squeaks a bit, or that could be my knees, and you haven't heard me. Why are you doing that? I'm beyond puzzled why people would do so. Why someone would cycle with headphones in when you've got bone conducting headphones that allow you to listen to music or podcasts, but also be aware of your surroundings.
Completely get it with
such
cycling.
An old fart.
Completely get it with cycling. Obviously, I just started doing a little bit of running.
Oh, how far you got with your couch? 5K. Emma asked me.
It's day 3 now, so it's 3 days a week, isn't it? So I've got 1 day left this week.
So you a minute run, 90 seconds walk.
5-minute walk.
To warm up.
Yeah.
It's always 5 at the end of
the minute 90 seconds, a minute 90 seconds 7 times. Then the 5-minute
And how was that?
Oh, easy.
So you can run for a minute?
Yeah, no trouble, yeah.
Is that because of the football then?
Yeah.
Run for a minute. I mean, I've got to be honest, some people, it's a bit of a challenge. I found it a bit of a struggle when I started back in January or whenever.
Maybe football, yeah. I can run for a minute. I can run for
How
a minute.
long could you run for? At a decent enough pace.
So two years ago, I was in the gym, because I don't run regularly, but up until a year ago, I did play five-a-side football quite regularly. So 2 years ago, I was in the gym and just decided to see if I could run 5k.
Right.
And I ran 5k in under 30 minutes.
Bloody hell.
But I was also wearing my gym trainers and all my toes were bleeding by the end. So
I mean, 5k in under 30 minutes is good.
it put me off. But then
Were you dead at the end?
No.
Okay.
On a treadmill. But then, because I felt cocky about that, I went for a run with my friend who does park run every week. And the difference from doing it on a treadmill in the gym to going up and down hills and going on the road and then on the grass, I was literally within 3 minutes dying, and he was off and away. So there's a tremendous difference there. And then obviously 5-a-side football is hit training essentially. You sprint and then you have to stop yourself. You sprint and you have to stop yourself, and there's a bit of strength and whatnot. So my endurance is crap, and as soon as you put me outside, I'm a waste of space. But
I just love running outside, because I started to catch 5k on the treadmill, but then obviously it gets to the point where you're running for, I don't know, half an hour, and it's not the most exciting thing in the world, no matter what you got on your little treadmill screen. And running outside, I just love it, especially during lockdown, the weather we had. Just God, I'm really sounding old today, even older than usual. Just appreciating what we have around us. And I was thinking, God, imagine if we were still in London and be running around some housing estate or something. I know there are lovely parks in London, obviously, but we're lucky to be up here. And yeah, just running outside, especially at the moment. I mean, I know the mornings are getting, the nights are getting longer. So I was on the bike, 5:45, something like that this morning, had the lights on. Running, have you seen my Ironman thing?
Yeah,
for my running?
yeah.
Oh, well cool. Little strap with a light on the front on my chest. So it's like, no, because if it doesn't get light till 8 o'clock in the morning, what am I going to do? And it's like, I've got to do something about it. I'll do it safely, but I don't want to be sort of running at midday and then getting to work at 4 in the afternoon kind of thing. So just figuring out what we can do. Cause it's
bloody bright, that torch as well.
Oh, it's really, really bright. But it's good because, I would say that increase of the exercise has done more for my mindset than anything. As the reading, the conversations me and you have, the podcasts we listen to, they're great. But I think the biggest chunk is probably that exercise, because if I do it first thing especially, that just sets me up so positively for the day. So even though shit might get thrown at me in the day, it's like, I know I cycled 21 miles this morning before, whilst everyone else was still in bed.
You've got a double whammy there, haven't you? You've done something most people wouldn't do, and you've preloaded the endorphins. Your mind is mentally prepared for...
So the 5 a.m. club, the first thing that says you do, they've got this thing called a victory hour, and this is what you do between 5 and 6, and the first 20 minutes is exercise. So I've got to work out my own kind of routine, because I'm not just going to go and do bloody press-ups for 20 minutes. I'll just get out and do something. But it's just really interesting. I even got a journal arrived yesterday. I'm going to start filling that in every morning. And stuff that, frankly, I thought was a load of bollocks previously.
Yeah.
But again, I'm always willing to learn, because if something's happening, if it's like, even though I've been in media since bloody 1996, and I will still have times where I get impostor syndrome, I've got to do something about it. It ain't so. You do what you've always done. You get what you've always got. They say, right. So what can I do to address it? Well, luckily we've got a thing called the internet. So I will download apps. I will watch YouTube videos. I'll listen to podcasts. But take action. And Rich Roll sometimes, what is it? Mood follows action.
Yeah.
He says that quite a lot. And it's like, you ain't going to change shit by just sat on your ass on the sofa.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in what you've just said there. The mood follows action. If something bad happens and you take a negative action to address it, guess what your mood's going to be? Mm. If something bad happens and you take a positive action, if it was bad enough, you might not feel full of the joys of spring, but you'll certainly feel better than you would. And, we were talking about the difference between consequences and punishment earlier, and consequences mean that everybody holds responsibility. Punishment means that everybody's scared. And I'm not interested in that negative mentality.
It must be so difficult if you know something needs addressed, but you haven't got the mindset or the will or the clear head to do something about it, and the situation just gets worse and worse and worse. And you see this in business, that sometimes, it doesn't always take one thing, but something bad happens and it just puts you onto that kind of spiral. And it's like, right, and wanting to help someone, but unfortunately, they've got to be willing to help themselves.
Yeah.
And it's an imposter syndrome, I think, is rife. And we talked about that judo match I lost because he had that bloody six-pack and he looked ripped, and I lost the fight before I got onto the mat. And in business, it's the same. Just because you got some loudmouth competitor who, oh my God, he or she really, they look the business, it sounds like they know what they're on about. Oh God, maybe I don't know. And it's rife, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say? Someone's starting a new business tomorrow. They might be very successful in their industry, but I suspect over the next few months we're going to see a lot of these people who've previously been very successful in their industry starting out on their own. What would you say to them? Because they'll all experience it. So
read these books, listen to these podcasts, exercise, and be very, very careful who you hang around with.
yeah,
I could literally give them if anyone was interested, I would give them a list of books and podcasts I would recommend to help strengthen their mindset,
their resolve.
But you can have all that in the world if your best mate is a glass is half empty kind of guy or gal. If the sad fact is, as a business owner, you might have to spend less time with them.
Don't listen to the people that pull you down too much, and don't listen to the people that hype you up too much. You want
Yes people.
Yeah, yes people. The people that are saying, "Oh, well, you're better than everybody in your industry, so you should do that." You never want to get to a point where you feel like that. I think it's really important that you remain humble, but surround yourself with people that surround yourself with people that prop you up, don't pull you down. Like I said at the beginning, really, the sort of people that if you run an idea past them, they wouldn't be afraid to tell you if they thought it was a shit idea, but they wouldn't just think it was a shit idea because they wouldn't do it.
That's a really good point. So what's your thoughts when people do go on social media and say, okay, Joel, I'll film my first, new in business, film my first video. What do you think? And it's the biggest bag of shit you've ever seen. And obviously, that loads of people, in fact, pretty much everyone who's going to comment publicly is going to say something wonderful and nice.
So this sort of happened to me yesterday.
Oh God, really?
He does listen to the podcast, but I won't name his name, so he won't mind me saying. But a friend of mine asked about my personal trainer yesterday, and it wasn't a public thing, so it wasn't. But
how was this then on WhatsApp or something?
Yeah, he just WhatsApped me in the day when we were with our mentor actually. WhatsApped me in the day just saying, I'm thinking about getting a personal trainer. You speak quite highly of yours. What should I do, sort of thing. And I know this guy. It would be a big commitment for him to do it. So I just texted back saying I'll give you a buzz later. Anyway, I rang him when I got home, so speaking about 5:30, and talking through things. And he's like, well, this guy, he's a good-looking bloke in decent shape, so it's a hard thing for me to relate to. And
no, Joe, you're good-looking.
No, yeah, that's not where I was going with that. But he's a particularly good-looking guy in particularly good shape, and he works in an industry where you have to be good-looking. So he's very
not the friends I was thinking of.
So he's very self-conscious because he works in an industry where you have to look like that.
Oh wow! I'm intrigued now.
So chatting to him, and he said, "Well, what's it going to be like?" And I said, "Well, do you want me to be honest with you, or do you want me to do you want me to just encourage it?" I said, "If you want my honest opinion, there's nothing wrong with your body composition now. You look good, blah, 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 but you have got a massive problem with food." I was like, it doesn't matter when I spend time with you, you will talk about how many calories there are in the food, or that you're not going to need to eat till tomorrow tea time because of how much you've eaten now.
Oh, I thought you meant he was like eating too much.
No. So he's constantly worried about how much he's consuming.
Oh, right.
And I've never brought it up with him before, but I said, so you'll go and see this trainer, and I'm telling you, he's going to tell you to eat more.
Right, okay.
Because you'll burn that many calories in his sessions that you'll be doing your body damage unless you eat more. Are you going to be okay with that? And he was so grateful for me being that honest. But there's not many people, I think, that would be willing to say that to him. And that's the kind of people I want to be surrounded with. If I'm doing something, you will give me your honest opinion on it. There's not many people who will be able to give me their honest opinion on it without soiling that opinion with their preconceptions. So whether they're right wing, left wing, socialist, Republican, whatever it might be, they'll bring something to the table that isn't objective or pragmatic.
Yeah. You definitely. I mean, the people in your circle, they have to be honest and constructive. And maybe that's why so many celebrities or nice celebrities, they've still got friends from their childhood, people who knew them before they're famous, who will turn around and give it to them honest and say, listen, don't be such a prick. Get your head out your arse. Remember who you are. And when people are maybe innocently asking the public for their opinion on something, you need to make sure that you have people in your circle you can ask privately, listen, what do you think of this video? Because people are lovely, if you ask them on LinkedIn or Facebook, the feedback you're going to get is probably going to be overwhelmingly positive. And so you'll think, oh, brilliant, that video I did was awesome. I'll just go out and do tons of videos. And it's like, no, you're doing yourself damage. And that's why I think, to be honest, in all aspects of mindset, having that circle around you it's so important. It doesn't have to be your family. It could be your business colleagues. It could be who you're connected to on LinkedIn. It's vital.
So something you need to remind me of in the future, particularly with our business group that we visit quite regularly, is to never ever attend that meeting and say, I haven't got a question.
Oh, quite a few have done that, haven't they?
And
we're paying quite a bit
well,
of money.
yeah,
Get our money's worth.
There is that. But also, I always want to learn. There's always going to be something I need to know. And it's up to me to remember to prepare a question beforehand. And there's no use me saying, oh, sometimes I get imposter syndrome, and then being in an environment like that where there's people around the table who've already been there and done it and not ask a question.
Yeah. So if you could turn back the clock then, do you think you would have joined some kind of business mentorship mastermind group earlier? It's got to be the right one, obviously. But
And you've got to be able to afford it.
well, okay, afford it, or is
Invest
it
in
an
it.
investment that you think, right, I'll bloody do some mini capping. I know I need to be part of some kind of coaching group or program.
I know my life would be very different now if I had. Very, very different. I think I'd have shaved probably 5 years off my business cycle from. So let's say I've been in business. Well, I've been in business 9 years this year. I'd probably say I'd be where I am now, but in a much, much shorter space. Probably 2 years.
But the reason you didn't join one because affordability, or you weren't aware that there were.
Wasn't on my radar. Didn't come from that place. Yeah.
And you'd hear about mastermind groups and think, oh, it's a load of bollocks, or it's just a quick way to lose
my
a couple of grand a month.
only experience of networking was BNI.
Sorry, I was choking my drink then. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone. Okay, BNI has its advocates, absolutely, and it will work for some people. But like with any form of marketing, it's not going to work for everyone. Didn't really work for me, and I vividly remember my first BNI meeting, and Emma and I stood up, did our 1 minute speech in front of all these suits who literally didn't give a lot of them didn't give us time of day because we were there in like jeans, God forbid. And we walked out and Emma said, I'm never fucking doing that again. Right, you do the networking, I'll do the books. And to be honest, that's done us pretty well for like 15 years, however long we've been going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, networking could be a great support for some people with the right club.
I met people in networking in the early days. I met you at networking.
I remember that first time, I think.
Yeah. The less said about that, the better. But no, I've met other people at networking, and we've got a client that hosts a networking group that I very much think is the opportunity where you can come and speak to like-minded people and learn business lessons. And they also host a book club, which is very similar because you'll read the book will talk about the mistakes business owners make, and the people that get the most from that book club will be the ones that say, I've made that mistake, how can I stop myself doing it?
So depending on budgets and everything, would you say that most business owners would benefit from being a part of some kind of networking club or mastermind group, something like that?
The best athletes in the world have a coach. The best teams in the world have a coach. That's.
Would you encourage people to find the money if they can? Because it's an investment, isn't it? If it's
hugely.
You can't cost. It's like, but if we work out, because at first we were like looking how much our own program costs, and it was like, oh, it was quite a bit. So it's like, right, well, we've got to be in this. And me and you, if we do something, we always do it 100%. But the return we've made,
monstrous.
It's been.
And
yeah.
the other thing I'd say, particularly for people suffering from imposter syndrome, and hopefully this will be a good point to end on really, is it's very difficult in whatever industry you're in, unless you're really pally with your competitors, to know what they're up to know what they price at, to know how they do their proposals, to know how they quote, how they host their meetings, how they deliver their work. The only experience you'd have of that is from industry before you go out on your own. And by joining a mentorship group, chances are you'll bump into somebody from your industry who's willing to share that information, or your mentor will have met people who've done it before, and they'll literally give you the wake-up calls you need. They'll be like, you do realise that your pricing is $5,000 less a month than everybody else, or you do realise that your videos are shit, or you do realise that it's brilliant. You've got 400 testimonials on Google, but none of them have any impact. And suddenly you're like, right, that's what I need to do. They're the areas that I need to polish up. I need to stop trying to worry if my email says regards or kind regards. It's that they're not the things that make impact. And that's been the best thing, I guess, for both of us on Impostor Syndrome, has been having people that we could turn to and genuinely ask, would you pay this? Or
that's our next Ahead of the Game episode, though. We talk about attitude to pricing.
Yeah,
your mindset, because some people, they're just not comfortable charging what would be or should be a fair fee, and they're undervaluing themselves and their experience and all the sacrifices they've made to help other people.
Right, let's go eat pizza.
Lovely.